Good morning, everybody. It is Monday morning. And I don't normally look at the days, but I know that today is Monday morning, and it is, again, a windy, I don't know, it's actually a beautiful morning out. It really is. I'm sitting out here on my back patio, and I woke up a little bit late. I was laying in bed and I was doing my gratitudes and then telling myself that I really needed to get my ass out of bed to come do conscious coffee. And I was just like, oh, I don't want to get up. I just want to lay in bed and sleep for another hour. But that does not get anybody to their goals, to just cave to the feeling of not wanting to get up in the morning. Because I think that we all have that. And then as I came down here, and I walked outside and I opened up the back door to the patio, and it's overcast, and it is just an amazing morning outside, really. There's just this feeling in the air. There's this cool breeze blowing and the birds are chirping, and I was just like, oh, it feels good. It feels good out here. And then I sat down and I was thinking, my coffee pot did not help me this morning with solving the dilemma of what am I going to talk about on Conscious Coffee. So I'm standing at the coffee pot and trying to get it to make coffee for me. One of the kids used up all the water on tea last night and did not fill the water. So that was the big thing. Not really a big thing. But nothing really came to me over the coffee pot. And I walked out here and sat down and was trying to get into the right position and all this different stuff. And just came in that people are fickle. Know yourself. And yesterday I was talking to somebody and those words kept coming up. People are fickle. People are fickle. And I was thinking about it last night and in following conversations with other people about different scenarios and different situations and all this different stuff. And I thought, that's actually not a bad topic. It's a good topic for a Monday morning for sure. To really just go into the week looking at how looking at relationship and looking at the different things that come up in relationship, and how no matter how much we know somebody or how much we think we know somebody, and that's what it really comes down to. We think we know people, and we get very, very close, and we're like, oh no, I know them. I've known them for 20 years. I've known them for 25 years. I've known them for 5 years. I've known them this time, that time, all this different stuff. And then all of a sudden, they change. They give us this complete turnabout in their personality, and it's like they're a completely different person. It's almost like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, right? Or some alien abduction, and you're just looking, and you're like, what the heck happened to this person? I thought I knew you, and now all of a sudden you're acting this completely different way. And what it comes down to is that people are fickle. We're all fickle, self included. We can change gears within a half a second, and it has nothing to do with anybody else except for the way we're feeling about something or what our needs are, our desires are. Just like humankind is greedy. Humankind truly thinks about only one thing, and that is self. And in all my teaching and conversations on here and talking about to put self first and to do this and to do that, and it's absolutely true. And so many people have issues with the concept of thinking about themselves, but at the same time, in just a moment's notice, will flip gears with the people in their life and change and do things, and ultimately every single decision that we make is only for one purpose, and that one purpose is to try to make self happy. Whether we want to admit it or not, we can say, oh, so-and-so did this, so-and-so did that, I'm doing it for this logical reason or that logical reason. It all comes down to the fact that we're doing whatever we're doing for self. And that comes right down to like, oh, I'm helping somebody. Yes, I'm helping somebody, but I'm helping somebody because it makes me feel good about me. It makes me feel like I'm looking good. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. No matter what, the ego is at play, and we really are greedy. And then we really are fickle, which means that we are going to just change gears according to whatever is appearing best for ourselves in the situation. So, if you think you know somebody, you do, and you don't. And what it ultimately has to happen to have good relationships, to have good connection, and to not overly get overwhelmed or overthrown, become a doormat, whatever words you want to use here, however you might feel when somebody completely just shifts gears on you, is to know thyself. Know thyself and make sure that you have that connection to yourself first. Because at the end of the day, the only relationship that ultimately matters is the relationship that you have with self, which is also the same relationship that you have with the divine, with the creator. And to know yourself is where you really tap into your core, and you can make those decisions based on you instead of based on John, Mary, Joe. It doesn't matter what John, Mary, Joe's doing. Only thing that matters is what you're doing and how you feel about it, and being in alignment to that, because John, Mary, Joe could say, oh yeah, I'm totally on board. That's perfectly fine. Everything's great. Everything's groovy. No, we're okay. We're this, we're that. And come tomorrow, John, Mary, Joe could say, see ya, bye, don't want to be around you anymore. And here you've made these decisions based on what they had told you yesterday, and finding out today that things are completely different, and then get really hurt, have a lot of chaos in life, be stuck in a position where you are making poor choices, or feel like you're basically over a barrel on things and don't have the ability to really decide what you need to do that's best in that moment. So you start doing things just, like from that reactive position instead of from a proactive position. So putting yourself in the primary position of what self needs first, and I need to make the call for self and not be so worried about this. And I'm even in long-term relationships, to kind of always take on what is right for self first is definitely a good idea. Because I'm not saying don't don't compromise, don't do this, don't do that. Always said, no, it's all about me, it's all about me. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that to realize that no matter whom you're dealing with, no matter who they are, no matter how much you love them, no matter how deep the connection is, no matter any of this stuff that we get caught up on, the emotion of things, that at the end of the day, everybody's fickle, including self. So realize that. And the only person that you can really, truly, accurately read and know what's going on and make decisions for and from is the self. So don't get so caught up on, well, if I say that I want this, then they're gonna do this or that. Go ahead and ask for what you want. Go ahead and share with the people in your life what you need, what you want. Communication over and over again, because otherwise, at the end of the day, you're going to have that miscommunication. And you're going to see how fickle people can be, because that miscommunication is going to show up somewhere along the line, and all that stuff that wasn't spoken about will rise up and come and get you within a half a second and leave you sitting there going, wow, where did that come from? Wow, where did it come from? Why is so-and-so acting like this? Why are they making these decisions? Why are they doing that? And it really is because people are fickle. And sometimes we think that we want something, or we think that we got this covered, or we think that it's all going to be okay, or we just simply don't know how to be, do, or have anything different than what we're used to, because that's the program in place. And when we're so accustomed to those old patterns, even though we might want something else, if our belief is that all we can have is this, and we haven't worked and done the internal work to change that belief, then all we ever get is exactly what that belief is. So start looking at those things as well, but realize that a lot of the fickleness of people, self included, right? You have to go there too, self included. The reason why people are so fickle is really based on a desire that doesn't match a belief. And beliefs are nothing more than practiced thoughts. So if you really truly have a desire, and you have like a desire around, I want relationship changes, I want to call a relationship into my life, I want to have a relationship that's like this, I want to have this, I want to have that, because it's talking about relationship today. So anytime we have something that we want to call into our life and it's not happening, but that desire is strong, then it comes back to the belief. And the belief, if it's not in alignment, which means that we're not practicing the thought, we're not changing the thought, we actually have this core belief that we can't have this, then even if we've called it into our life, it's not going to work long term, because at our core we believe something else. We believe that we're supposed to be alone. We believe that relationship always ends up this way. We believe that, I don't know, I have like 15,000 things going off in my head around this, but trying to keep it as open and not too focused here. But just look at that, like what are those core beliefs that you have around relationship? And I guess that's what I'll do. I'll challenge you to write down your top 5 to 10, maybe 12 core beliefs that you have around relationship. It may be, I know that what I hear a lot in conversation with people is truly, I don't believe that romance can last a long time. I don't believe that, I believe that big time fights happen in relationship. I don't believe that, one of them, like I hear from a lot of single people, and even I'll throw my ex-husband underneath the bus, because I don't mind throwing him under the bus, I guess. Like his belief is that he's always alone. So he always tells me, he's like, you just don't understand, because you've never been alone, and you're never going to be alone. And I'm like, you're right. I never will be alone. I'm never alone, because my belief is that I'm never alone. My belief is very, very clear that I always have people in my life. I always have relationship. I always have connection. Just like I have the statement of like I'm never without a man in my life, and I've never been without a man in my life in some form or another, romantically speaking, since I was 15 years old. I've always had somebody there. I've always had a masculine in my life to support that masculine need, to have that connection, that intimacy, that play. And literally, I think my longest downtime between masculine was 2 months in my life, and that's it. So I've never really experienced life as a woman that's not had a masculine in. And my viewpoint on that is, there's men everywhere. There's good men everywhere. There's this, like that's just the way it is. But that's a hardcore, deep belief for me. Therefore, what shows up is always the knight who's ready to conquer the world, who's ready to connect, who's ready to have romance, who's ready to play, who's ready to do this, who's ready to do that, because at my core is exactly what I believe I always have. Just like I always believe that I have people around me, sometimes to a point that I go, I never can get alone. And I say, like, I have the frustration of, like, I never have alone time. My ex-husband, on the other hand, has spent his life feeling very lonely and feeling very alone, and to the point that he does everything, even when there's a massive amount of people around him, including family, including like his children, including friends, all this stuff, and he does everything. And his belief is so strong that he's always alone, and that he will be alone romantically speaking too, that he literally comes up into a relationship. And I've watched him now. It's been like 7-8 years that we've been fully, actually it's been like 8 years that we've been fully apart. And I've watched over the course of 8 years that he goes and he gets into like this relationship or that relationship. And he has these women that pop up every now and then. And even in the middle of those relationships, he feels lonely. He feels alone. He's needing more instead of realizing how much he has. And he's looking around and he doesn't see a bunch of people in his life, but he has people in his life, but he's ignoring those relationships because there's not an alignment to what he thinks he wants inside. But inside, he's actually going, I'm always lonely. I'm always alone. Nobody cares. Blah, 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 all this different stuff, these old programs, patterns, and thus what he gets is consistently really just itty-bitty little relationships and not too much relationship at all, because he says that that's what it is. Just like a person who says, I hate people. All right, so if you say, I hate people, and you do everything in your power to avoid and push away and to shut out people, then to turn around and say, I want a relationship, I want a romantic relationship, but I hate people. How are you going to have a romantic relationship if you hate people? You know, I'm not a people person. I hate people. I don't want to be around people. People irritate me. People frustrate me. People are stupid. Blah, blah, blah. I want a romantic relationship. Well, unless you're having a romantic relationship with a blow-up doll, then you probably have to be around people, especially one person in that matter, who might want to be around other people, who might have other people that come with them to relate with, right? So to hate people, but then say, I want this, those beliefs don't connect. They don't line up. They don't match. So you're not matching the relationship. And ultimately, that's, I guess, probably where we're going with this, is that it's about matching a relationship. So people are fickle. Number one, people are fickle. Know thyself. And in order to create the relationship that you want in life, you have to, number one, match the relationship, which means that you have to match the relationship internally at your core with your belief structure. Look at those core beliefs. What are your top 5 to 10, 12 beliefs around relationship? And also you can blend in there, what are some beliefs that you have around around your relationship? And I'm working on romantic relationship today, but it could be relationship around friendship, because people are fickle in friendship, right? I mean, I had years ago, I was in this women's group, and it was quite literally like a couple times a week. It was a mom's group, and it was so much fun. We had so much fun together. It was like a couple of the best years of my life in working on connecting with the feminine that I can remember. I mean, I had a blast, and I was the hostess with the mostest, and we would have martini parties and PJ parties, and we'd play games, and our kids would all get together, and we'd take turns babysitting, and we would go out and we'd have like birthday celebrations together and go out, once a month and do like a girls' night out. And there was like a group of like 12 to 14 of us, and we laughed and we had fun, and we like take walks together in the evenings and end up at different people's houses and like have a glass of wine, and then share our shit with each other the way women do, and go on. And I felt so grounded and connected and safe in this feminine energy and relationship that I had with this group of friends. And then one day, out of nowhere, this group of friends, about 98% of them, somehow decided, and I still today don't know exactly what happened, which is interesting because nobody would tell me what happened. But somehow in this group, everybody decided that I wasn't going to be part of the group, quite literally. They decided that I wasn't going to be part of the group anymore. And it happened overnight, that from my perception. It happened overnight. I went from like, da-da-da-da, hostess, and joyful, and connecting, and laughing, and all this different stuff, to like the following Monday, crying because I lost all my girlfriends, and feeling like I was in high school again, and all my friends were just abandoning me. And it was one of those moments where I asked a couple of the women that weren't leaving my life, and I said, what happened? And like, what caused this? And nobody could give me a straight answer. Nobody could tell me exactly why or what changed this whole dynamic within like 3 days. We're talking like within 3 days. One of the women that had decided that I was getting kicked out of the group, you could call her like the lead of the group. She was mama bear of the group for sure. And her and I were like this, okay? So her and I were like this, so which made it really interesting. And she just looked at me and she said, you know what you did. And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't know what I did. Can you please share with me? Like, maybe I need to apologize about something. Maybe I need to do this. What if this is happening and this energy shift is happening and I don't know what happened and you do, and I'm saying I don't know what happened and I'm asking you what happened, I'm asking for communication, I'm asking for clarity, I'm asking for understanding, and you just come back with, you know what you did. But I really, really don't. Because I'm looking at the scenario and I'm like, what the heck happened here? What is this? And she held to it, and she probably would hold to it still today because we still haven't talked. But she probably would just say, you know what you did, you know what you did. And that was a really good, that was a big trust break for me with the feminine energy and all the work that I had done around healing, that I thought that I had in place around healing my relationship with women, and really being able to trust the feminine, because I always had this mistrust with the feminine because of stuff with my mother and stuff with girlfriends in high school, and like it's just like, it's not a pretty thing for like being a girl and being a preteen and a teenager. Girls are very, very mean girls, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on, and then you think that you get into your like 30s and all of that would go away, and then you find out, oh, mean girls still exist, and this still happens, and that still happens, and all that stuff. But so I was trying to heal all this energy in the feminine, and I thought that I had it underway, and then all of a sudden it got just pulled away and taken from me in a half a second, 3 days over a weekend basically. And nobody would tell me what was going on. So I was heartbroken at the loss of all this relationship. And here's the thing that happened in that story, is that number one, people are fickle, and they don't know what they want half the time. None of us know what we want half the time. And sometimes, well, a lot of the times, ego gets caught into it, and maybe I threatened somebody. Maybe I did something that they perceived one way, and it really was not that way. Maybe somebody said something that wasn't truthful, and they believed that because it was a better dramatic tale than the truth of the boringness of the truth, right? Who knows what happened? Doesn't matter at this point in time at all. But the lesson was, people are fickle, and ultimately I had to know myself to move through that. I had to know that what was going on inside of me. I had to find my happiness and my connection to self and to the divine in order to work through that. And I knew then that even though that a lot of it was actually came back to my own internal programs around the feminine, and the fact that I didn't ultimately yet trust the feminine. I was still untrusting. It was like waters that I was treading, and then I was trying to figure out, and I was trying to believe in and trust in. But at the end of the day, I felt like girls were just going to stab me in the back, because that's what I experienced in school. That's what I experienced with my mother in different ways, was that there was manipulation, game playing. There wasn't a lot of trust there, that women just were not to be trusted. And I've always been like more of a, you could say like the male advocate of like, I get guys on certain things and I'll tell men things and they're like, man, you really understand me. I'm like, that's because I think that like women just, we're all over the place. We're emotional, we're this, we're that, and we've also been raised to believe that this like mean girl syndrome is okay, and that women are bitches, and women are this, and women are that, and blah, blah, blah. So we have a lot of these programs, and unfortunately we do this to each other as women as well. So to go in and lean into a feminine relationship, for me especially, is very, very testing, because I go, how far can I trust her? Can I really, really trust her? I'm more likely, even with all the fickle men that I have dealt with in my lifetime, and that is a whole nother tale, but with all the fickle men, I tend to trust the masculine more than I trust the feminine. And I look at that, and I look at this particular scenario here, you know, well, it's been like, I don't know, 6-7 years on this, and I look back, and what that was core beliefs that I could not trust the feminine. I couldn't trust the feminine. So what actually ended up happening, even though on the outside of things, I looked at it, and I had, like, call it a dozen really great girlfriends in my life. I had laughter, I had play, I had, you know, like girls' nights out, and we were doing this and we were doing that, and it was all amazing and fun. My core belief was, this is too good to be true. This is too good to be true. Can't trust women because women will stab you in the back, blah, 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 blah. So that was my ultimate truth around that. So even though I spent 18 months, 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, I don't know what it was, in this relationship of having fantastic girlfriends in my life, and you would think after 18 months to 2 years that I would have this strong belief that I could trust the feminine, and that I had good girlfriends, and that would shift my internal shit around that right there. But because I had 32 years at that time, or 34 years, whatever it was, of belief and support that the feminine I couldn't trust, my stronger belief, and anytime something happened between me and any one of my female friends in that moment, it would just support that belief. So that root of I can't trust women would actually get watered anytime somebody did something, and I didn't realize it. I wasn't consciously aware of it, which made me probably react in certain ways. And whether I did anything to create, like physically, whether I did anything physically, verbally, to create the scenario of the whole group of women boycotting me, I guess you could say, or not, is beside the point. What happened was, at some point, my belief created a strong enough energy that repelled everybody, except for a couple who probably had similar beliefs to me, which made it more in alignment, so they hung out for the time frame, and actually we're still have connections today. So maybe there's something there, and that was a stronger alignment. But ultimately, my belief around the feminine is what created that repelling of all the women in my life. And then it took me another 6 years, quite literally. It's not been until the last probably 18 months to 2 years that I would say that I have pulled in a few women back into my life and been testing the waters as to how much I can trust, how much I can actually breathe into this and lean into it and be vulnerable and have that sisterhood. And because I want that sisterhood, I want it, but at the same time, people are fickle and women can't be trusted. So there's these beliefs, right? And the truth is that people really are fickle, because we really are all over the place with stuff. But you can't trust women, you can't trust men, that's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. That is the ego at work, to believe that you cannot trust somebody is just bullshit. To believe that you can't have this or have that, those are all internal things that to really work on those core things, and to realize, hey, that's coming from my ego, that's coming from this pattern, from this program, from way back here or way back there, and I need to really work on that and change that core program. So, long story short, I don't know how I got off on that one, but I did. Really realize that the things that happen in your life, quite literally, especially around relationship, probably are just based on what those core beliefs are that you have. So realize that no matter what happens, no matter what your reactions are, no matter what somebody else's reactions are, that if you're not working on changing the core belief in here and changing that whole structure, then what's always going to come to you, even if it takes 1 month, 2 months, 7 years, it doesn't much matter. That belief, if you are not actually dealing with it, it will manifest itself as to what your core belief is, because the energy will shift. And the other thing to realize here is because we're all fickle, self included, right? What ends up happening is that, it's like you have a core belief, they have a core belief, so you have two people coming together with these core beliefs, and maybe they're wanting something that is the same. So let's say they want the relationship, okay? You want the relationship, but what if both people have the belief that the other always abandons the relationship? So let's say I have the here's a wound. I'll be vulnerable. This is Vulnerable Monday. That's what I'm going to call it. Vulnerable Monday. So I know that one of my structures that I have to work on all the time is that I have this belief that men always abandon me. So I have the belief that I'm never without a man, but at the same time I have another core belief that men always abandon me. Men always abandon me. And I look back and it goes straight into like my relationship with my father. So I had my mother, that I felt that she was manipulating the situation, and she was always driven by herself and all this different stuff, and to the point that even as her daughter, that I knew that I couldn't necessarily trust the things that she was doing, because she was always trying to concoct and do things, and she would lie directly to my face, which would drive me crazy. And I'm like, I see that. I see the lie. It's like was goofy lies. But then I had my dad, who I really, really adored. And I really adored my daddy, and I wanted that connection with my daddy, right? So it was like, because we went out and we went fishing together, and we talked about different things, and I was always that tomboy. So I would play baseball, and I would do this and I would do that, and it was all focused around this relationship with the masculine, with my dad, and I loved it. And then I got into, but my mother was telling me how bad my dad was, and she would complain to me about, like, I was her counselor at age 5. I was her counselor, and she would tell me all this different stuff. So she was creating this program about men, and to me, without realizing it, but she was creating this program around men to me, about abandonment, about what men do, about this. And then on top of it, at the end of the day, when they got divorced, my dad made the decision that he would just pull away, he would retreat, and if I wanted to be in his life, then I would be in his life, and I would go to him. The only problem is that I was raised by him, so this thing that he had going on, he had shown in other relationships, and therefore taught it to me. So my belief structure then as a teenager was, if he wants to be in my life, then he'll come to me. And he was on the other side of the fence going, if you want to be in my life, then you'll come to me, which left us both not going to each other's lives, which started this whole program of men always abandon me. And then I turned around and had this abandonment relationship with my first love, where he just vanished off the face of the planet. And then, then I got into a marriage where I felt consistently abandoned in my marriage, emotionally, physically, financially, all these different ways. I just felt this abandonment. And then I look at it, it's like all these different things. So I brought up that. So here's the thing. Many, many women have that exact same program. And that's why I share this, because I think one of the biggest programs that women definitely have is that men always abandon us. But the flip side of it is that men have a very similar program that women always abandon them too. So there's a lot of wounds around the son and the mother abandoning the son, and all this different stuff going on there. So you get two people that desperately want relationship, that want to have this romantic relationship, that want to be connected with another person. And I'm using masculine and feminine here, and I refer to men and women, and really truly take this as the scenario that fits your life, okay? I'm referring to masculine energy and feminine energy. That can be two women coming together, that can be two guys coming together, or that can be a man and a woman coming together. It does not matter. I'm not talking about what you're sporting in your genital region. I'm talking about the masculine and the feminine, and I'm using just the basics of man and woman, okay? So, just have to say that, because I know that sometimes people get off on me and go, you're always talking about this, and I'm this, and I'm like, it doesn't much matter. Just take the lesson and like, use it for your scenario, because we all have masculine and feminine. So, back to, I'm using the basics of man and woman here, okay? So, you have these two people, and they come together, and they both want this relationship, and they're both really, really wanting it, but at the end of the day, both feel that the other is going to abandon them. Where does that get you? Okay, where does that get you? That gets you quite literally into the shoes of that it might take a year, it might take 2 years, it might take 7 years. But at the end of the day, what is going to happen is that these two parties are going to never fully trust each other. So they're always going to be on guard. And then all of a sudden you end up in a fickle moment where one person goes, and we're changing gears. We're going over here, and I'm done with this. And that leaves you sitting there going, what the heck just happened? Like, what the heck just happened? Why did that person make this decision? And it's ultimately because they're feeling like, you're going to abandon me anyway. I need to remain in control of the situation, so I'm going to do this. And they're going to support. And if you notice, a lot of the times, whether it is a friendship break, a romantic break, something that even happens between us and our siblings, our parents, our children, that there is this moment in that breaking that you can almost see that the other person is just doing something to act in control. So they have this belief that it's going to go that way anyway. No matter what, that's what's going to happen. So that belief is so strong because they know that they're going to get abandoned that they actually force that to happen. So they force the scenario, the relationship to break. They force it to change because at the core, they believe that the relationship is going to break anyway. And what they believe, maybe I'm always going to be alone. So like pull my ex-husband back in here. I have the belief of abandonment. He had the belief of abandonment. We both came together because we ultimately, I guess, wanted this relationship, right? So we think that we want a relationship with each other, but we both have abandonment issues. Then he has the belief that he's always going to be alone, that he's lonely even. You take that into account, you pull that into this abandonment-based relationship, and now you've got one person that believes that they're always going to be alone. So this right here is a scenario of like, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to create an environment that is going to support the belief of, I always get abandoned, I'm always alone. So even though I have the belief over here of, I always get abandoned, I'm never alone, the whole scenario goes into, well, if he believes that there's lots of other fish in the sea for me because I believe that there's other fish in the sea, so that's not the issue there. I'm going to support the abandonment stuff, and he's going to go, I'm always alone, and create that scenario of coming back to always being alone. Make any sense? I hope it does. But look at that, because no matter what the relationship is, and I know that relationship is something that no matter who we are, it's happening. Everything is about relationship. We cannot escape it. We all want relationship. We all want connection. We all want love. We all want support. We all want this in multiple ways in our life, not just romantically speaking. We want friendships. We want connection. So, but we're scared shitless of that connection. And the reasons why we're scared shitless of the connection is because of the patterns of programs that we're consistently running at our core. So if you want the relationships that you think that you want, and you want to have them long term, then what you have to do is you have to get in there. Number one, you have to recognize what those patterns are, because if you don't know what a core belief is, you cannot change it, plain and simple. I can do my work around abandonment. I can do my work around, the feminine and the masculine. I can do the work around that because I, through the course of time, recognize very clearly how I fucked up in the relationships and where my belief was this when I was trying to create that. So instead of just focusing in on trying to create this, the quickest way to get what I want is to actually change and work on the belief that is rooted inside, and actually pull that root out and start moving it so that I can plant a new tree, basically. And that's what everybody needs to do around this, especially this topic. Any topic, it doesn't much matter. We have these core beliefs around everything. Today we're just talking about that aspect of relationship. What are those core beliefs around your relationship? What are those core beliefs around love, around connection, around really that dynamic that you're wanting to create? And if you get to the heart of it and you catch yourself going, men are always blah, blah, blah. Women are always blah, 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 blah. Oh, this always happens to me. Look at the relation. I always draw in this kind of relationship. I always have this happen to me. If you're always having something happen to you, look no further than your core belief as to why it's happening to you, because that is exactly why it's happening to you. You have a belief inside that is so strong that it's creating this energy, this dynamic to consistently show up in your life until you get in there, grab that root, pull it out, and plant a new tree. And it's difficult. I will tell you that it is difficult. It takes work. It's not an overnight process. You can make a decision, but it takes consistent work to support the new belief structure. And that means that you really need to go and start looking for the relationships to be a different way. So before I end here, I'll just say, like in my case, coming back to that feminine energy that I had blow up in my life years ago, right, with these 12, 13 women that were really, really close friends. And then it took me years to heal that until the last few years. And it's still not healed. Still not fully healed. I'm not proclaiming it done. I am proclaiming it a work in progress. Because I went through a time frame where I just boycotted female relationship again. I just went, I'm not trusting women. Because women always blah, 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 right? So I went through that and I allowed myself to just distance myself from that. And then coming into the last few years, I'm going, okay, I do want a sisterhood. I do want women in my life that I can go and I can socialize with and I can have this female connection, because I have so many men in my life. I have all these great masculine relationships, but I don't have that feminine relationship. I need my sisters. And then I started reaching out in different, energetically speaking, I reached out and I pulled in a couple women into my life. Now, those few women that I pulled into my life, I'm into that testing ground, right? So it's like, I want to believe that they're there for me. I want to believe that I can be there for them. I want to have that sisterly relationship of love and connection and trust and know that we got each other's backs. But at the same time, I'm going, and it gets scary. So I end up in these situations where I am forced into vulnerable positions, you could say, where I have to trust another woman to help. I have to trust another woman to hold space for me. I have to be able to hold space for her as she's going through whatever she's going through, so that we can support each other and help each other heal. It is definitely a work in progress. It's consistently learning. I know that it is not just me going through these learning curves, but it is also the other women going through those learning curves too, because we probably have similar healing that needs to be done, and that's why we're coming together. But that action of consistently seeing, and now not looking for, oh, how did she not support me? How did she act like I've always been used to? But instead looking for how these women are showing up in my life in the positive. So I'm choosing to look at supporting my new program that I'm creating around the feminine instead of supporting the old program that I had around the feminine. So looking for that positive shift instead of the negative that I have been accustomed to. And that's ultimately what you have to do. You got to go and you got to get your supportive evidence. You got to just gather it up and start looking at that, because that's how you start to change that program. We need the physical evidence that this is happening in order to actually get a shift to happen and to start to actually change that belief, because we've got to be able to go, yeah, but that didn't happen there. And as soon as we can apply doubt to what that core belief is, we actually have a little door opening to changing that core belief. So look for those opportunities to apply doubt into those core beliefs that you want to change, and really get clear on what your know thyself, which means know thyself. Figure out what your core beliefs are around relationship. And what's going to happen is people are still fickle. We can't change anybody else, but we can change ourselves. And if we change ourselves, we can realign our energy. We can change what's going on there. We can change our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and thus the relationship dynamic that we have with everybody in our life, and actually call in people that match us, because we're now matching the energy that we say that we want. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that it was helpful. I hope that you had coffee throughout that. I hope that you actually take the moment today to write down those core beliefs and get clear on them, because without that clarity, you're not going to be able to change anything about anything, quite literally, and especially around relationship. And then you're going to end up in the same scenarios over and over and over again. And you might still end up in similar scenarios, but you're going to see shifts happening. And you're going to start to notice, like, okay, well, that happened again, but this didn't. So I'm changing here, but here's what I really need to work on now. And that's quite literally just look at every single relationship as a lesson. And it really truly comes down to that relationships are reasons, seasons, or lifetimes, and there's always the reason. Always, always, always there's a reason behind every single relationship that we have. There is a reason for it, and it is a reason for both sides. But the side that you really need to be concerned about is, what is the reason for you that you're having this relationship? Get that lesson, get that reason, no matter how long that relationship lasts. Get your reason out of it and really learn and grow, expand from that. Don't let it shut you down. Let it meet yourself a little bit deeper. So, okay, guys, I am going to close this off. I don't know how long I've been on here. I rambled a lot. Thank you for listening this morning. This week is definitely going to be a little bit different of a week. I've got a whole bunch of stuff. Last week ended up being crazy, and I was not quite to the position that I was hoping that I was going to be at, so I did not get everything done that I really wanted done. There's the fact of the matter. I thought I had more time and energy than what I had, and this week I'm hoping that I can actually really get back in my game and get a whole bunch of stuff out and about, and really start making these connections back here on Facebook, and just really start connecting and flowing and putting out some fantastic content for you guys, and just sharing at a vulnerable place a whole bunch of the stuff that's happened over the course of the last month for me, and how that can potentially affect your life, because I know that my lessons and being vocal and out there and in front of everybody is definitely, God's put me in this position to share from that space, so that I can connect and help others through similar situations, or understanding of the psyche and all this gets in the heart and energy and blah, 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 blah. So there's going to be a whole bunch of probably writing coming out this week, and I've got some different things that I'm working on course-wise as well. I've been kind of changing things up and working on different things in that department. Not going to make a big announcement here, but if you are local to the Dallas area, Addison Bell and I are going to be having a workshop coming up on the at the end of this month, and that's all focused on female sexuality and stuff. So we're going to be having that come up. That's going to be exciting. We're doing that at the end of this month, and then there's a whole bunch of other courses that are coming out. But definitely look for those things if you're interested in. I mean, I always am preaching my Feel Good Now course, because that covers so many things, and it really does cover like these topics right here, and getting into the thought process and learning how to really just change those thoughts and notice the emotional connection that we have to those things. So all the practices that I normally do day to day, quite literally, like right here, my next step is my journal. And when I get done talking on here, I'm going to open up my book and I'm going to do my journaling that I do every single morning, and to really create that fuck yes life. And as you're going to see in the different stuff that's coming out, I've been through quite an interesting month of change and transformation, and I really contribute all the blessings and everything that has come into my life, and just being able to kind of emotionally remain stable, you could say, and not fall apart at the seams, to all the work that I have done over the course of the last few years. And actually too, my journaling, I would say, is probably one of the biggest foundational blocks that I will preach on. So if you're interested in what I do to work through no matter what the turbulence that life can throw us, and how to consistently keep manifesting and keep having abundance and all this good shit come into life, even when life is not appearing like it's going to be so great in the moment, but just being able to process through that stuff, then the Feel Good Now course is definitely something to explore. It's definitely a powerful course. There's a video in there, there's audio, there's meditation, there's all the different practices that I do, so you really get to touch in on the things that I am consistently doing and how I do them and what the thoughts are around that and the reasons and all that good stuff. So check that out. Link is pinned to the top of this video now. So other than that, just stick with me throughout the week. Conscious Coffee will be here tomorrow morning around 6 o'clock in the morning as well. If there was anything in this Conscious Coffee that was beneficial, helpful, useful, intriguing, you thought of somebody that needed to hear it, tag them, love the post, hit the share button. Definitely hit the share button. Hit the share button to help me get Conscious Coffee out there, touching other people's lives, so that they can have these messages too. And other than that, I will catch you guys tomorrow around 6 a.m. in the morning. And always remember, stop existing and start living.